Converse on, but I thought, you're Nike. And he said, no, we're all one family now.
That's right.
I could have worn them, right?
That's right. Converse is part of the Nike family now.
That's right.
Matter of fact, there's some Converse people here.
Yeah, terrific. Well, what a treasure to have you here, to be able to spend some time with Roca and to hear more about your story, especially as we think about all we can do to help young people after this inspiring morning. Can you take a couple of minutes just to share a little bit more about your journey, how you got here? And I'd love to know, were you surprised by the reaction you've received since your book came out?
Sure. I grew up in West Philadelphia. Was a straight-A student all through elementary school. But as I got to be 12, 13 years old, the streets started to pull at me. And eventually, it became more important to me to please people in the street than parents and teachers. That led me to join a gang and kind of be in and out of trouble. When I was 16 years old, I shot another young man and he died. I was drunk, I was angry. One of my friends had been killed. And this person was an innocent young man, had nothing to do with any of that, and just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's something that I regret every single day of my life. I was charged as an adult, pled guilty to second-degree murder. I was sentenced to 4.5 to 20 years. Did the 4.5, got my GED while I was doing the 4.5 years. Got out, went back to the same neighborhood, same environment, same situation, ended up in trouble again, in and out. Eventually was arrested with 5 armed robbery charges. The last time I went to prison, they had a program there where you could actually take college classes inside the jail, and then you could move into these trailers outside of the jail and live in those trailers and just leave every day and go to school, have to be back by 8 o'clock at night. I ended up getting into that program, got my associate's degree while I was in that program, transferred to a halfway house in North Philadelphia, transferred my credits to Temple University, got a degree in accounting of all things, being a criminal, I don't know why I chose accounting. But ended up, when I was about to graduate, I had applied to a lot of the Big 8 accounting firms at the time, and ended up going to spend a full day interviewing with one of the firms. And all day in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, should I share my story with these folks? And finally, I get to the last person who's the hiring manager, and I decided that I was going to come clean and share with this guy. So I kind of share with him my story, and when I'm done, he reached in his pocket and pulled out an envelope, and he said, I've got an offer letter here that I was all ready to give you, but I can't give it to you now. I can't take a chance, and I wish you the best, but I can't hire you. And at that point, I had to make a decision, because my first thought was, have I done all this for nothing? Like going to school, putting all this time and effort in, and they're not going to let me, utilize it anyway. But I thought about it and I said, you know what, I'm going to continue down this path. But I made the decision that I wasn't going to share the information anymore. I wasn't going to deny it if it came up. I wasn't going to lie about it if asked or on an application, but I wasn't going to volunteer the information. And for 40 years, I built my career with folks not knowing my background. I ended up going to work for Campbell's Soup Company, worked there for 5 years. They had a program where they would reimburse you for tuition, so I ended up getting my master's degree while I was there. And then kind of got my career going. I worked for Campbell's for a few years. I worked for a newspaper company for a few years. I ended up moving out to Portland to work for a company called Janssen. They make swimwear and sportswear. Did work there for 5 years, ended up being the president of Janssen. Ended up connecting with Nike and getting hired by Nike. I was hired as the vice president and general manager of apparel in the US. And I didn't know it at the time until I got there, but I was the first Black vice president in the history of the company when I started there. Worked for Nike, and at the time, Michael Jordan was about to retire from the Bulls for the second time. And he did that a couple of times. And there was a lot of concern around what's going to happen now. And myself and a number of other folks felt like there was an opportunity to build this business, to take that logo and create a brand. And so I was involved in doing that. Worked for Nike for 10 years. Left there, went to work for the Portland Trailblazers. I was the president.
I'm wearing the red and blue
I
just
see,
for you,
I see.
red and black,
I
just for
see.
you.
I was the president of the Portland Trailblazers for 5 years, and then ended up going back to Nike to run the Jordan brand again. And about 3 years ago, we started a advisory board and for the Jordan brand. I'm now the chairman of the advisory board. But my daughter, my oldest daughter, was pushing me all along the way. Dad, you need to share your story. It can motivate and inspire some folks. And I kept Heisman, no. Finally, she convinced me that it was the right thing to do. And so her and I worked on it together, and the book came out about 2.5 years, 3 years ago. And it's been amazing since then, the response that people have had. And the other great thing is I've gotten to find out and connect with amazing organizations like Roca, and be able to understand and realize that there are people out here who are really serious about helping to change people's lives. And so to me, that's been one of the great benefits of this. The last thing I'll say is that once the book came out, or right before the book came out, I got an opportunity to meet with the family of the young man that I shot. And it was an amazing situation. I was able to express to them my sorrow and remorse for what I did. Again, I was a different person at that point. And they each talked about how what happened affected them. But at the end of each one of them speaking, they said, "But I forgive you." And there were tears and hugs. And so that, to me, that was one of the best things that ever came out of this situation.
The good news for all of us here is that everyone here will receive a copy of Larry's book, Jump, as you're leaving, so you can get more of the Cliff Notes version that he just shared with us. But it's a really inspiring story, and I know many of your colleagues and others had no idea of what that history was, and so to see it come full circle and for you to be here with Roca, I think was inspiring for the individuals you were able to meet with yesterday as well. Because Molly puts you to work. You just don't get to come here and have breakfast,
no,
right?
I mean, I had no issues about Roca's work ethic. Because I got off the plane at 7 o'clock, I think it was around 7, and they were waiting for me. And shot me up to Springfield, and we it's been a great 2 days. So they worked me hard, but it's been a great couple of days.
Fantastic. You know, you had this opportunity while you were serving time to tackle education. I'd love to know your thoughts, especially given the folks who are in this room. We have a number of elected officials, individuals who are engaged at every level of the system. Like, what did that mean to you? What kind of advice would you have with respect to the importance of boosting educational opportunities for young people in particular?
So for me, I'm 100% clear that education changed my life. The ability and the opportunity to get an education really was what allowed me to change my life. One of the things that I'm really kind of proud of is that Harvard Business School actually did a case study based on my book. And they did a really great job at it. They built great context around it. But one of the charts that they included in the case study showed that, so the recidivism rate, people get out and within 2 to 3 years are back in, is about 77%. But the survey and the study that they did showed that if people are able to learn a skill or a marketable skill set, a marketable trade, 77% drops to 30%. If people are able to get a bachelor's degree, 77% drops to 6%. And with a master's degree, it's at 0. So to me, that's a clear-cut indication that with educational training, with skill set training, with people being able to learn skills that allow them to have a decent life, to be able to support a mortgage, buy a car, those type things, people don't go back to jail if they are able to take advantage of those type of opportunities. And so I think the more we can provide opportunities for people to be able to learn whether it's education or whether it's some type of skill set, it will reduce the recidivism rate, which in turn will reduce crime in our communities, because a majority or a large part of the crime is done by people who have been in the system and are involved in that revolving door. So I think, to me, without question, education is a key to changing people's lives.
So important, as we know. It's so important, as we know, most folks are coming back home, and to be able to have some education or a skill set that they can utilize is critical. But that next step is getting that job. And so we also have a lot of business leaders here, and oftentimes it can be a scarlet letter. And can you just talk a little bit about what we should be thinking about as folks who are employers in this room to help us overcome? We believe in redemption. How do we get there? What advice would you have for business leaders as they're thinking about it?
I think, to me, a lot of it starts while people are still incarcerated. To me, I was able to start on this path to changing my life while I was still incarcerated, even though I took classes while inside, but once I got into that program, I think that I was at a conference not too long ago. There were a number of people there who had been formerly in the system, and they asked, they were talking about this one young lady who had done a significant amount of time, got out, had changed her life, was working for a major company and doing a great job, and her boss was there. And he talked about the opportunity that she had gotten. When they asked her about the opportunity, she said, I don't really see this as an opportunity. I see it as a privilege. And to me, if you got people working for you who see their job as a privilege, who see it as something that they, are love to do and are excited to do, you're going to get better performances out of people like that. Some of the most intelligent, creative people I've ever met are people I met when I was incarcerated. And to me, if these same people were given the opportunity, their lives would be totally different. There's a commercial for a college, and I don't remember the exact college, but the line in the commercial that really stuck with me said that in this world, talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not. And to me, that's a major, major issue that we should be trying to address. How do we provide more opportunities so that all of these talented people out here can actually make a contribution to our community and to our society?
So true, so true. Definitely feels like the time is right. There's a lot of research to back up this information, and I think a willingness on the part of many leaders, especially here in Massachusetts, to try and turn things around. You did have an opportunity yesterday to meet with some young individuals, young men, I believe, mostly in Springfield.
And women.
And women. There were women there too. Good. I'm glad to know that. And obviously, Roca is really trying to reduce urban violence, and a lot of that, unfortunately, does involve youth and young people. What did you say to them? What would you say to those of us who might be working in that space in terms of a message for young people who want a brighter future but are sometimes losing hope?
I think you're right. First of all, I think it starts with people wanting to change, wanting to do something different and better with their lives. And I know, because there were a number of times throughout my younger life when I was still involved in criminal stuff that I really wanted to change my life, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, how I could do it. And I remember sitting on the steps in West Philadelphia with some friends talking about it and saying, and this is quite a while back, I was sitting there saying, hey, if I could make $500 a week, I'd be good, but nobody's gonna hire me and pay me that kind of money. And back then, $500 was kind of like, I know it doesn't sound like much today, but it was just the mentality of not having hope that I could really, do something positive with my life. So I think it starts with people wanting to change, and I truly believe that there are a lot of people that want to change. But then it's like, okay, what's the process? What's the path for them to get there? And I think the more we can provide that path for them, I think the violence and the things that are going on in our community are are connected to the financial situations there, the fact that people don't have hope, don't see how they can get out of their current situations. And I think that lends itself to violence. The other thing, and I mentioned this yesterday, is that for a lot of these young people, there's no value placed on human life. And even to the point on their own lives or anyone else's lives. They don't see the value. Like, I know growing up, I never believed that I would live to 25 years old. I just, in my mind, I was like, you know, I probably won't make it to 25. And the reality is, so therefore, I didn't see a future. I didn't think about what I should be doing to build my future. I think we have to somehow figure out how to provide hope for these young people, because to me, if there's hope for them, then you know, the violence and things that they're involved in, I think will change a lot. But we have to figure out how to let these young folks know that there is an opportunity for them to change their life. There is an opportunity for them to move out of the situation that they're in. Yesterday, meeting with a number of the young people, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at them, and I could see myself in those young people. I could see myself sitting in those seats. But my hope was that they could look back at me and see themselves in me and say, hey, if he's been able to do this, if he's been able to change his life, if he's been able to move forward, then I can as well. And so that was kind of my hope and message for the young people yesterday.
Yeah, fantastic. You know, you've had the chance to spend a couple of days with Roca, and like we obviously acknowledged, we put you to work.
No question.
I think those of us who've had the good fortune to work with Molly and the team at Roca understand so much about what they do and obviously why it works. Incredible rates, 97% retention rates, significantly reducing recidivism compared to individuals who are not involved with Roca. Like, we just need more Roca for sure. But I'm curious, like, how do you think this program is working, and why is it working so effectively in your mind?
Well, like I said, first of all, they really put me to work the last couple of days. I mean, without question. But it's been an amazing couple of days for me just to see the lives that they've affected, how positively some of these young people respond to Roca, and seeing how dedicated the staff is that it's out. And I know that they track people down because they track me down. They stalk me and track me down. So I know that process. But to me, one of the other major things that's come out of this whole process for me is the ability to see organizations like Roca, who are out here doing really good work and are focused on, you know, changing people's lives and helping these young people to see that providing hope for these young folks and providing the ability for them to see a pathway out of the situation they're in and into changing their lives. So again, my hat's off to Roca. You guys worked me to death, but it's great. And I actually went up to Concord, to the prison there, with Molly and visited a young man there named Elijah, and it was a great conversation. He shared his story, I shared my story, and we were able to kind of help each other and support each other. I benefited from hearing his story and seeing how emotional he got and how dedicated he is to changing his life. And it's because of Roca that he will be able to come out and have a different life and be able to get on a different life path. So again, my hat's off to Molly and the whole team. I've met some incredibly dedicated people that work with Roca and are a part of Roca. And in addition to folks that support Roca, I've met a number of people that are supporters of Roca and support the work that they do. And it's been great for me to be here for a few days to get an opportunity to see and be a part of the amazing work that they do. And I just want to say thank you to them.
The reflection in the last 20, I didn't realize it was 28 years. I had it around 20 years, being someone who worked in Chelsea at the beginning. And folks at that time, Jay and others will remember, there was actually a lot of animosity between the police and Roca at one point. Like, they didn't see each other as partners. And to understand where we are today, it's a real tribute, I think, both to Molly and her team and to leaders on the ground, particularly within public safety, who said, we have to do something different. Like, we can't just spar all the time. And now to see a hotel room filled supporting an organization that has proven results in saving lives, and to have Larry here to to be able to share his story, just creates the momentum that we need to make sure we're doing all that we can collectively to improve the lives of young people, and that's really what this is about. I can't let you leave here without talking a little bit of hoop. As someone who not only headed up the Jordan division at Nike, and obviously was the president of the Trailblazers, there's a big debate about who's the GOAT in the NBA. Some people think it's Michael Jordan. Some people are talking about LeBron James. You won't be surprised that here in Boston, we probably have another name on our list. So I'm not going to ask you who the greatest is, because people like you now, Larry, and if you don't say somebody else whose name begins with Larry, there could be some problems here.
Well, you guys have to remember I'm from Philly.
Okay.
So Philly, the Sixers, the Celtics,
The famous picture, right?
Yeah,
we can recreate that right now, Larry.
exactly.
Dr. J, Larry, people know what I'm talking about? Thank you, Peter. So what do you think of the Celtics this year? Let's keep it diplomatic, because they're a good team, and we think they're going all the way. We're ready to cue the duck boats.
I think they have the opportunity and the ability to go all the way. Love Jason Tatum. He's a Jordan brand player. Love him. He's not just a great player. He's a great person, a great individual. So, but I think my Sixers got knocked out last night. So I guess I'm gonna be looking at the Celtics.
There you go.
But again, I do think the Celtics have I think they have the best chance in the East to go all the way.
All right, we'll take that, right? We'll take that. Please join me in thanking Larry for not only sharing his amazing journey, the courage to talk about it, but then putting in the work to help us improve efforts and opportunities on the ground for better outcomes, not only to helping individuals. In this Commonwealth, we believe we can't lose anybody. We need everybody off the bench helping build a stronger state and stronger opportunities. But it takes putting in the work, and that's where the organizations like Roca and the work you're doing make a really big difference. So thanks everyone for being here to contribute.